Nacho cheese, not a chance. These are the high carb Doritos. And Jonathan loves these things, don't you? So I decided I would try to come up with a low carb option for Doritos. Because like I said, there's not a chance that I'm going to eat these carby things, right? Okay. So I started out, and Jonathan was helpful. We read the ingredients on the Doritos list, right? And we found that there was all kinds of icky ingredients that I wouldn't eat, maltodextrin and sugars and things like that. But we found out there's cheddar cheese powder. And so I started trying to find a really good option for cheddar cheese powder. And I read a lot of labels. And we found Anthony's. And Anthony's cheddar cheese, this is just premium cheddar cheese powder. Anthony's cheese I got on Amazon. It really was the best option for cheddar cheese. We saw, according to the ingredients, that it had tomato powder, right? And do you remember what else was in there? Red pepper or bell pepper powder is in there, and garlic and onion powder. And so we said, we can make this, right? Okay. So we set out about making it. Now, let me say that I'm really torn about this recipe because I really try to tell folks to eat real food, right? Real fruits, vegetables, things you would buy at the grocery store, things that your great-grandparents or my grandparents would recognize as food. So the cheddar cheese powder was something that I really hesitated using, and that's why I wanted to make sure I could find it with the very cleanest ingredients. I tried it with nutritional yeast, and this is something you can generally find in the grocery store. And honestly, I just couldn't get the cheese flavor from nutritional yeast. If you're not comfortable using the cheese powder, use nutritional yeast. Just use more of it to get a cheesy flavor. I've also made this, I've made probably 12 different variations, but I've made this with nutritional mix of nutritional yeast and the cheese powder, and it's actually very good. It's one of my favorite ways to make it. But what I'm going to do for what we're making today, for our, I'm calling these KeDoritos, K-E-D-O-R-I-T-O-S, KeDoritos, instead of Doritos. But this is 2 tablespoons of cheddar cheese powder. Now, again, don't freak out on me because you're going to go to Amazon and you're going to go to buy this, and it says 26 carbs per serving. And my husband absolutely freaked out. He's like, 26 carbs? Well, that's for 100 grams. 2 tablespoons are closer to 20 grams, and you actually might want to measure it on a scale, a kitchen scale, because those 2 tablespoons or 20 grams are going to give you 5.2 carbs. So I just put 5.2 carbs, and this is more than you would eat in a serving, I promise. You'll see as we go along. On the tomato powder, I'm going to use a little more than 1 teaspoon. So this was 2 tablespoons of the cheddar cheese powder, and I'm going to use a little bit more than a teaspoon of the tomato powder. Now I'm just going to put this all in here. I'm going to use my whisk and whisk it all up, but right now we're just putting it in. Okay, so paprika is just powdered red pepper. So before I realized that, and I'm embarrassed to admit that, but before I realized that, I went online and I ordered bell pepper powder. Now, the tomato powder, the tomato powder, the cheddar cheese powder, and the bell peppers, these are freeze-dried. They all came from Amazon, and I can put the link into the video description. It will be an affiliate link, so I want to give you a heads up on that. But I just take it and put it in the blender and pulverize it. If you don't want to order the dehydrated bell pepper, you can just use additional paprika, and that's what I tend to do. This is about 3/4 of a teaspoon of paprika. Now I'm using just regular paprika. You can use a smoked paprika, and it gives a little different flavor, but it's quite good. And then I'm using 1/4 of a teaspoon, didn't get all that out, 1/4 of a teaspoon of the bell pepper. I pulverized it in my Ninja, and it is a little bit gumpy, so it's not coming out completely as I want it to. Then I'm using 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. This is just onion powder you can get at Walmart or any grocery store. I'm using about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. I would use more like a full half, but not everybody in the family is quite as fond of it as I am. So that's, so far, 2 tablespoons of cheddar cheese powder, 1 1/4 teaspoon of tomato powder, 3/4 teaspoon of paprika, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of the ground bell pepper. If you don't have the ground bell pepper, just use a full teaspoon of the paprika, and you can use regular or smoked or a blend of the two. 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder and a 1/2 teaspoon to, well, 1/4 to a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. Now, these other ingredients are optional. I found that they work really well, and this is a 1/2 teaspoon of whey protein. When you look at the Doritos package, it talks about having whey, and this is unflavored isopure whey protein isolate. It just, I don't know what it does. It doesn't really give a lot of flavor, but it just gives maybe the right mouthfeel to it. And again, that's optional. You don't have to use that at all. This is a 1/4 of a teaspoon of chili powder. Chili powder is not on the package for Doritos, but it really does add a nice flavor. So I'm putting it in our KeDoritos. If you don't like the chili powder, leave it out. And then the last thing that you may not have is citric acid. Now, citric acid is something that I purchased to give a little more bite or zing when I'm using lemon flavor or lime flavor. It's on Amazon, and I'm telling you that a little bit goes a long way. This is a 1/4, this is an 1/8 of a teaspoon. You would not want to use a 1/4 teaspoon. You can use it for all kinds of applications around the house, but it's good too if anytime you're making something lime or lemon. I'll be using it soon, I hope, in a lime pie or lemon pie. That's on my list of things to make. I'm just going to whisk this around. And it smells really good. And in fact, what I did was we opened a couple packs of Doritos. I'm smelling, I'm reading the package, I'm tasting here, I'm tasting there. So I was doing it to get it as close as possible. There is some sweetener in here, and I have made this a couple ways, and I have put some sweetener. I didn't like it with sweetener. If you used, I would use a little powdered mealis, maybe an 1/8 of a teaspoon. And if I was going to do that, I'd put it in my Ninja and blend it. All of this is already finely ground, so you don't have to put it in your Ninja, but certainly I could have dumped it all in there. So at this point, you can take your finger and just try it. And it tastes a lot like a Dorito to me. Now, what do we eat this on? Pork rinds are my favorite choice. This is the pork rinds. This is made by the Carolina Country Cracklin brand. They're made right here in North Carolina. It's just pork rinds and salt. And another reason I wanted to make this recipe was because people like flavored pork rinds, and often the flavored versions have maltodextrin. So I really wanted to get away from anything that used maltodextrin. So what I do with it, in this bag is 1.5 ounces. It is supposed to be 3 servings. Now, there's no carbs, or there's less than 1 carb. It's probably trace carbs. In 3 servings, you're going to have 15 grams of fat, and you're going to have 24 grams of protein. I just love that ratio. And then the way I've calculated it for me, and the amount of seasoning we're going to put in this, we're going to add at most 3 total carbs, at most. So I am just going to open this up, and what I do, I've been keeping this, and I've been playing with this recipe for about 2 weeks. I put this in my little condiment cups that I buy at Wal-Mart, and I'll sprinkle about half of this, I like it really strong, about half of this over my pork rinds. And I'm just going to take, not quite a tablespoon, a little less than that, and sprinkle it over. And this is just for when I'm on the go. And then I shake it. And that's it. You have your KeDoritos. And if you like more flavor, you can add more flavor to it. But it comes out looking kind of like this. And I don't want to crunch it while I'm have the microphone on, but they're really tasty. Grace, do you want to try? No? She doesn't want to try. I'll just break one tiny bit off. And I love them. I've been eating them way more than I should. But that is, and the other option that you can do, instead of putting them on pork rinds, if you're not fond of pork rinds, these are cheese chips. These are the Parmesan crisps that you would buy at Whole Foods, or make your own. And you can use the cheese chips that you make just in the oven. And they look like this. That's it. They're really tasty. Grace, you want to try that? No?
I'm not presentable.
I can just hand it to you.
Okay.
I love that stuff. Well, let me put the pork rinds out so you'll see what they look like. And that's exactly how our version of keto, I'm going to sprinkle a little more KeDoritos. Look, these are great to sneak into the movies. They are great to have with your low carb wrap for sandwiches or bunless burger. And I hope that if you make them for your family that you enjoy them as much as we do.